Well, good morning, community. Welcome to Stroke of Genius Podcast Survivor Experience. I'm your host, Aaron Alva, 14 years post brain aneurysm and stroke. I created this podcast to encourage you so you're not alone in your battle against stroke and battle against hardship. Really, what I do, like on this show today, I'm going to introduce you to a man named Glen who lost his wife to cancer. And the reason I show you these different types of survivors, not just stroke survivors, so that you know that you're not alone. And there are other people that battle survival, battle holding on to valuable things in life, and then really battling the emotions and hardships of life. So I wanted to introduce you to this man named Glen Andrews. Let's get right into it. Let me take this down for just 1 second. I want to tell you something real. This morning, I woke up around, I would say about 4:30, 4 o'clock, with an overwhelming sensation time is limited. That that our time on earth is limited. Stroke survivors, we know it all too well that we looked death face square in the eyes, walked away. Here we are today. So I just want you to realize that I did this morning and took me hello Jessica Sanchez, great to have you out there. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. But look at this morning, it's kind of being made aware that time is limited, our life is limited. So don't take it for granted. Don't take for granted those people around you that you love, people around you that you really are. Hey, Bro Bryce, how you doing, bro? Thank you for being here. Jessica Sense is here. Bryce Bryn is here. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for your support. But I just don't want you to take life for granted. I, like many of my other stroke survivors, took life for granted. I'm 47 years old. I can't have a brain injury or stroke take away all my battle days. Well, I did. Age 47, I suffered a massive brain aneurysm. And then 2 weeks later, while in coma, I suffered a massive stroke. Been in wheelchair 14 years. I, like many, took all my abilities, all the people in my life for granted. And there's one thing I want you to realize as you listen to Glenn Lewis's wife to cancer, how he survived. Not just survived, but I should tried after. But it's about attitude and mindset. He's got away from Georgia. I'm just saying, do not take your life for granted. So let's get right into this. Let's get right into this podcast. You got to pick this up in the beginning. Here we go. See, so you were saying that your wife all of a sudden came to you and said, I got to go to the hospital?
Yeah, it was. She had come home from work, and it was like about 9:30 at night, and she says, "I don't feel very good in her stomach." So we went to the hospital, dropped her, and I couldn't go in because it was COVID, and they weren't admitting any non-emergency room people. All right, so I get home, and I find out the next day that at midnight they had schedule emergency life-saving surgery. Her colon had ruptured, and all sorts of waste products. They ended up cutting out 8 inches of her colon, stitching it back together, and it took 22 liters of water to flush the internal body cavity out. All right, and that was her whole reserve. 23
Yeah,
liters is a
I've
lot
got
of
to
water.
stop you. I'm curious. I've got to stop that. I won't get to do this on the podcast, but I'm curious. Did you have any warning signs before? Was she having issue? Nip? No. Oh my God.
No, no. So anyway, we go. She's in the hospital for 9 days, and then we get home, and then we having a visit with the oncologist, and says, "Okay, you've got stage 4 colon cancer, and what we recommend is doing a course of chemo, and you will probably have maybe 2 or 3 years of life left."
Oh my God.
And says, with the chemo, you'll never work full time again, and it might be 6, 9 months before you even consider going back part time. So she goes, "Okay, well, thank you. Let me think about it." So we go home, and she opens up her computer. Let me back go back 5 years earlier. She had been. We were living in Seattle at the time, and she had a breast sarcoma that was surgically removed. All right, and she had mastectomy, had breast reconstruction, and everything, and that worked out fine. So back then, she was looking at integrative uh, health approaches and clinics. Fast forward 5 years later to 3.5 years ago, she says, Glenn, take a look at this website over here. So we looked at it, and they were there was one of these integrative health places, and she says, I want to check it out. So we called them up the next day because it was the end of the day. So they explained everything. They says, okay, this is not going to be covered by insurance. We do intravenous things of high dose vitamin C, curcumin, glutathione. We do blood ozonation and all sorts of different therapies. And you'll be here maybe 6, 7 weeks, and that's typical for patients with colon cancer, stage 4 colon cancer. So he says, okay. So we went down, and we were down there. And after about week 6, her color was kind of coming back to her skin. And then all of a sudden, she says, I feel better. So we stayed for another week, came back home to Minnesota at that time. And she went back to work 2 days later. And she went back to work 9 to 10 months. She never would have had that had she gone the course of chemo.
My God, Glenn.
For her, quality of life was most important, not length of life. Okay. So, and she was working at a nonprofit, and that was very near and dear to her. So it was very important for her to be able to do that. So during that time, we had we were very spiritually focused ourselves, not religious, but spiritual
I understand.
folk. And so we kind of looked at things, and that life happens for us and not to us. All right. So I had that whole mindset shift that, hey, this is a gift. What can I learn from it? And then she had a relapse that kind of came up, and they said, okay, you probably have 2, 3 months alive, and we want to do this aggressive chemo. And she says, again, for her, it was about quality of life, and she just didn't want to be sick for 3, 4 months. All right. She says, let this run its course. All right. She was happy with that. She was content. And I kind of wondered, hey, what lay ahead for me? All right. So it was like inwardly, I kind of saw myself on a large platform stage speaking in front of 10,000 plus people, talking about something positive, inspirational, and transformational for the entire audience. Now, I didn't know what I was going to be talking about. I didn't even know how I was going to get there, but I could see myself there. All right. And for me, the gift was to be much more present with her. And not only with her, but with my friends, my coworkers, colleagues, relatives, everyone that I would meet, to be much more present. That is the spiritual gift that I received from that experience. Remember, for me, life doesn't happen to me, it happens for me. So, what's the lesson that I can take from it? And that was to be much more present and to be much more loving and uh, to recognize how precious life was. That wasn't new to me. I remember when I was 13 years old, I was on a scouting trip, and the scoutmaster ended up having a heart attack. He had emphysema, and I ended up giving him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation as he expired. I'm 13 years old. But my whole focus there was, yeah, make sure he was okay, but get all of the kids out because we got a fire burning down a third of the scout reservation. So um, it was little experiences that like that kind of prepared me in life. I had a roommate who had committed suicide, and I found him, and rigor mortis had already set in. So it was.
Wow.
I had a lot of experiences. So as a result, you're going to find that I'm a very positive, very uplifted. I'm a very ebullient person. I love life. All right. But those were experiences that would have been traumatic for some people. All right. But it was like, okay, I didn't even think about it when I was 13 years old. It's like, hey, I know what I got to do. I do this, get this, and this. And that's taken care of. And it was, the assistant scoutmaster was taking care of the scoutmaster at that time. So my whole thing is get all the other kids out to a safe area, and call for help. And, we're on a scout reservation in Central Florida. And it's like, okay, you make do with what you got. So this is before cell phones.
Yeah. How amazing. I'm a spiritual person. I was not a spiritual person before my brain aneurysm stroke,
Yeah.
but I had a near-death experience that
Yeah.
really impacted my life more than my brain aneurysm stroke. Because in the word, and I don't know people fully understand this until they go through it. And life happens for you, not to you.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing what you're saying. And normally you and your wife are going through is absolutely devastating. But life happened for you. You began something I am working on now and being more present,
Yeah. Yeah.
being more grateful.
Aaron, you're spot on. You're spot on.
Well, we're going through with that spiritual part about what you're going through. What you went through is what I went through. We're very similar bound by that. We're very common as far as spiritual energy goes in that direction. I experienced that same thing where I had to come to a point like you and your wife, come to a point where you realize that what is happening is spiritual, it's not physical. It is happening to bring you into the present moment.
Yeah.
It's where God lives. It's where God lives in the present moment. He doesn't live in the past. He doesn't live in the future. It lives right now where you and I are at right now.
The present moment.
Um, so I'm just getting curious. I mean, what was your attitude going through all this? I mean, there has to be some sort of devastation or something.
Well, the thing is, Aaron, I didn't even look at it as devastation. It's like, what's all this happening to me?
Oh,
I didn't even go there. It
wow.
was, what can I do right now in this moment? All right. And I didn't have the opportunity to have that deer in the headlight look. you know?
Yes, so
And
did she get to have the same attitude you have pretty much? You guys are on the same spiritual page.
well, you bring up an excellent point, Aaron. I think that if you've got some type of an experience that opens you up to that spiritual nature of ourselves, all right? It's just once we start tapping into it and accessing it, it's just sort of like we respond differently, right? We don't respond the way we would if, yeah, uh, as if there's scarcity in the world. There's limited resources, and it's like you recognize what's really important, and it's those one-on-one connections we have with other human beings. To be able to recognize that, and this is a big lesson for me that I've learned through my many years and going around the sun so many times. But to recognize, I just had the thought, I just lost it. But anyway, uh, to recognize that we're here to be able to give back to life.
Yeah, there's so much more to this life than physical.
Exactly. Exactly. Tell me more. I'm interested in hearing a little bit
Yeah.
about you and your out of body experiences
Oh,
or near
it
death.
was more than out of body, Glen. I it was a near death experience. After we're done recording this, I will send you my near death experience. It was 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Brother, I I can remember as if it was yesterday. Every detail, every minute detail I can remember. But I had a pretty similar experience that you and your wife did, where people look at me and they say, "Oh, you have been devastated." Like I did. I did the typical devastating no. Jeff Hazelite, and I remember when I had my brain aneurysm and stroke. I kind of took that it happened to me attitude. Well, the truth was it happened for me. I didn't realize it at the time. So in the beginning, I became suicidal. I'm still half paralyzed. Have walked for 14 years. But it's the best thing that have happened to my stroke. My brain aneurysm was the best thing that happened to me because it brought me to the very place that your near death experience brought you. But I think the main thing is that people don't realize that this power, this superpower, this spiritual nature has always been there. God has always been there. It's never not been there. We always think we're in control of life, but that's not true. It's not true. We control some things, but God controls the big picture. And I think it's when you can look at life, what here I am, suicidal. I'll go back. I did suicidal thinking it happened to me, not for me. But then I began to watch Jeff Hazlett on YouTube. And he started talking to me about attitude, about success being attitude, about there's nothing you can do with the right attitude. And I started realizing, you know what? I can do something. It didn't happen to me, it happened for me. I'm here to become president now, just like you just said, Glenn, that I became president and realized that it's happened for me. And now look at me, I built a multimedia corporation. I'm building host this podcast, and I'm just so blessed. I am so happy it didn't happen to me. To me, it happened for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now, is your wife she's still good? She's doing good? What's her attitude like?
No, no, no. She passed away.
Oh
Uh,
my goodness. I did not
yeah.
expect that.
No, no worries. No worries. She passed away 2.5 years ago. And, but now I'm living in New Jersey, just across the river from Manhattan. She said, Glenn, I want you to be happy. So I've got a new love in my life. We recently got married last July,
Okay, good.
and
Great.
she's a little different. She's of Indian descent, originally from Trinidad. So it's like, okay, and she's a little Spitfire. Yeah. So
Keep you
it's just like,
she
okay, glad,
keep you
this
on
is
your toes,
perfect.
does she?
Yeah. But
Well,
it's just to let you know, and confidentially,
yeah.
this summer I turned a young 72, and I'm shooting for 120 plus, healthy and fit with all my faculties intact. All
Yeah,
right.
you're very sharp on that.
So it's like I and the thing is that in 1 year over this period, I had dropped 53 pounds. All right. And I've managed to keep it off since last summer. All right. So for me, it's just, hey, if I'm going to talk about to other people about transformation, all right, I got to be able to transform myself. All right. And a lot of it is my mindset and my heart set. All right.
Well, for me, I'm going to say something. I think it's all about mindset and your heart set. I think that is really what life is.
That's the big one that a lot of people miss out on.
Yeah.
So I just include mindset in there because that's what so many people are think of. But I agree, it's heart set. It's that's the energy. That's the magnetism that you send out to the universe.
No, I'm been saying it. We're gonna make it, and I want you to give shit out to facility that treated your wife because they were doing some amazing work. So, who was the hospital you went to?
It was gosh, let me it's been a few years.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
there's alternatives.
yeah. Uh let me just do a quick search.
I've heard of people like this, and colon cancer is normally for sure like months once you're diagnosed stage 4. And then to live, even go back to work is amazing miracle. But I see transformations. Only a spiritual person realize this isn't it.
Yeah,
This life we live on earth. I'm gonna tell you, this is what the truth is. I'm
yeah,
not trying. Now you know the truth, Glenn, but anybody out there listening, you are the eternal spiritual creature learning to live inside a human body. This is not the end. This is
yeah,
not over. Not over.
yeah. I can't remember the name of it.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. We'll put a link in the description of the video in the chat. So in the description of the video.
Okay.
And you know, I want to talk to you a little bit about the spiritual transformation if I can. So were you spiritual before this happened?
Oh yeah, very much so. Very much so. Yeah, and I have my whole life I have. Uh I was raised as a Catholic growing up, and I had a number of experiences as a kid growing up. Yeah, out of body experiences, and I realized I was much more than a physical body. It was I was and I've had lots of experiences of recognizing that, hey, I'm a spiritual being just like everyone else. And one of the things that I've always learned is that everyone carries a burden equal to their measure. Everyone carries their burden equal to their measure. And it's not for me to be able to judge another person and say, hey, you're taking way too long on that. You should be able to move through it. Well, that's not very compassionate, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I haven't walked in their shoes. All right. I haven't had their life experiences. All right. And I'm at a different place spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally than they are. All right. So
But
I
that
can't,
doesn't make it wrong.
yeah, I know. So it's just to be able to have that compassion to recognize, okay, they're having some challenges right now. How can I be compassionate? How can I be there for them? And because for me, it's always not to help other people, but to be able to leave this place better. You know, that's what my legacy is going to be.
Oh my goodness, Glenn, you one inspiration. I had no idea a conversation was go this direction, but you want to leave this world better than when you came into it. And I'm with you on that, brother. I'll tell you what. And W, you say you're a public speaker also.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, mainly I've been speaking about leadership development, leadership communication, self leadership, but I also uh, I have not, but I also love to be able to talk about redefining one's life after a major loss, life event. You know,
Yeah, definitely. I want
just
to,
like what we're talking about here.
yeah, you're talking about something. It's, I think when people, we get so, people, the world, integrate us with being physical. We're all physical. It's about our cars, about our house, about our money, about it's nothing to do with that. It's about being, like you just said, about being present. I'm curious, Glenn, if I was to ask you, which we're going to do, what to be living the present moment mean to you? What does that mean for people that may not know what that means out there? What does it mean to you?
Okay, being present is the gift. That's living in the now, not living in the past, not living in the future. If I may share something, a lot of people will look, I like to look at it as the present moment is directly what's in front of you. All right. And what's to the right of you, can you visualize a wall, or what's to the right of you is your past. And what's to the left of you is your future. All right. That's the context that we
Oh,
pretty
I
much
like this. I like
look at. All
it.
right. So we have past, present, and future. All right. However, if you look at quantum physics, they don't have time as in any of their equations. It's all happening in the now. So imagine that with these walls, these imaginary walls that we put up to define past, present, and future, dissolve those walls and let all of those realities kind of shift into one. That's the present moment.
Oh, I like that. I don't think I've ever really heard anybody explain that way because I'm going through the transformation. I'm still not there, but I'm the present moment and those walls is all like mine speaks to my core. I tell you what, because the past mistakes I've made and the future I don't know anything about, but yet I
They're
try to
they're they're all
keep
blending together
it
simultaneously. Yeah.
amazing,
And
amazing.
it's this, and it's where we shift our attention. All right. That creates this where we're focused on. So for me, what that means is I know I've had some past experiences, but I can tap into them right now in this moment, in this instance. I can relive an experience. I can take a look at, hey, what's the future that I'm creating for myself? All right. You know, it's like my past does not dictate my future because It's a soup.
Uh,
All right. And it's sort of like it's just like I can go ahead and create whatever it is that I want. And I can create a past timeline if that will help me going forward, all right, or to be more present, but it's not necessary. All right. So in the present moment, it's just like this is all that really matters. All right. And that whole concept of time is just a construct. If you go back to the primitive, all right, the primitive peoples, all right, they didn't live according
no.
to a clock, all right. They lived their life and they had very rich relationships. They had, you know, the hunter gatherers. They had different experiences, all right, that was not governed by time, all right. That's only in recent centuries, thousands of years, that notion of time has come into play.
You know,
But
it's funny, 'cause I said when you were
sure,
talking,
sure.
when you were telling me, because I'm defining what it meant to live in the present moment. You're just defining to me the past and on the left or right, and the future. And both of them, I love, but stay centered. In my mind, I immediately began to see this. It's a road. It's the only road you can go forward on is a center road.
It's it's what's in front of you.
What in front of you.
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
that's where that's where we get to tap into our creative imagination. All right.
Yeah, I've actually been very like fortunate to experience that because, physically, I've still got a lot of deficits, but what that means, I'm getting to help thousands of people around the world that suffered a stroke or brain injury. And I meet people like you, talk to you, but this is no mistake.
Yeah. Hey, just to let you know, I got another call right now.
Okay,
I just
well, that's
know
perfect. But all right, first of all, would you mind if I keep this as a podcast? Because it was good enough.
we can maybe we can redo it because I'd love to have the background changed a
Okay,
little
all
bit.
right, well, we'll be I'll talk to you later. But thank you so much for sending. I wish you best. Glenn. Bye.
Okay. Hey, if you just want to do it audio, the audio is fine. But yeah, I'd like to change the background.
Okay, well, yeah, all
Put
right,
the green screen up.
that's not good. So we'll reschedule. We'll reschedule.
Yeah.
All
Set
right,
me
have a
on
great day.
fire, fire. Resisting the edge. Keep taking you, let me on.
Well, that was great. I really enjoyed. Here's a couple of my takeaways. I really want to come on here and live right now and tell you that live in the present moment. Don't worry about the past. Don't worry about the future, but live now. Now is all we have. I was telling you earlier at the top of the show, at the top of the podcast, how I realized I woke up like 4 this morning, realizing my mortality, and realizing that life is not forever. I am telling you right now, live in the present moment. Love the people that around you. Say thank you to the people around you. And just live in the present moment. Listen to that bird singing. Stop and smell that flower, whatever. But learn to live in the present moment. I want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Hope everybody has a great day. Talk to you later. Bye.